welcome to a brand new episode of the Fun Kids Science Midweekly. It's you, it's me, my name's Dan, and it's a whole bunch of brilliant questions about science through the solar system and beyond. Let's get to it then. If you ever have anything sciencey that you want answered on this show, make sure you leave it as a voice note for me on funkidslive.com. You can do it on the Fun Kids app too. That way you can star in the podcast. We'll go on an adventure together. We'll explore so much. I can't wait to do the digging all about your question. All right? So simple. Free Fun Kids app. You can do it at funkidslive.com too. We'll start off with one of those. Here's Remi.
Hi, I'm Remi, and I'm 7, and I want to know why we shiver when we're cold.
Why do you shiver when you're cold? You sometimes shiver for more than when you're just cold, right, Remi? We'll get to that in just a sec. So when you're cold, your body is doing everything it can to try and raise its temperature. And energy creates heat. Movement makes energy, which makes heat. So the muscles all over your body, they twitch, they spasm, which is why you shiver. You're shivering to try and warm up your body temperature. It moves your muscles to warm up your tissues, which lifts that temperature. It makes you warmer. And your teeth also chatter because of that shivering. So that's why you shiver when you're cold. It's to try and kind of move so you get hot. Sometimes you shiver when you're creeped out though, don't you? Something strange has happened and you get, a tingling shiver up your spine. Well, that's a reflex that we've inherited from our animal ancestors. When you're hearing something scary, your brain triggers a release of adrenaline, kind of fight or flight, just in case you need to get up and go. It's adrenaline, it puts you on edge. Well, that adrenaline makes the tiny muscles squeeze in your kind of skin, in the follicles of your hair. It makes those muscles squeeze, which makes your hairs across your body stand up. Now, animals do this in the wild to make them look bigger and scarier, and to also trap heat. For us, it just shakes our muscles and makes us shiver, Remi. So that's why we shiver when we're cold and when we're creeped out. Thank you for the question. Let's get on another one then. This is from Beth, who wants to know, why do we wheeze? Well, I wheeze a lot. I have asthma. And I am allergic to pollen, I've got hay fever, all that kind of stuff. I'm always getting colds, so I wheeze quite a bit. Maybe you do too. It's when the airways in your throat and around your lungs are getting inflamed. They do that to protect you from viruses. They're inflamed because maybe you've got a cough, maybe you've got a cold. So it's kind of like your body getting to work to try and defend you. And when they're inflamed, they make mucus. Well, that mucus is actually quite helpful. It's a slime that kind of blocks the airwaves. It's meant to trap anything bad that's trying to get in. But the sound that the air makes when it moves past that mucus, because it's moving in a much smaller space, is that wheezing sound, Beth. Thank you for the question. That's why you're wheezing. Let's get on another one then. This is from Luke in Brighton, who wants to know, how deep do tree roots go? Well, normally tree roots go between 1 and 2 meters into the ground, so not really that deep at all. And almost all of the roots are found quite close to the top of the soil. Sometimes trees can grow deep roots to about 5 meters. That's when you get taller trees because they need more grip, they need more anchoring, so they can get higher. Well, some trees, even more, have roots that go all the way down to 10 meters, way down deep. The shepherd tree in the Kalahari Desert in Africa, those roots go down to 70 meters. That's a record. So, Luke, that's how deep tree roots go down. 1 or 2 meters all the way to 70 meters. They're doing 2 important jobs, and we're going to touch on this a bit more in just a second. They are sucking up water from the soil, probably not a lot in the African Kalahari Desert. Actually, no, maybe that's why the tree roots are so deep, because it needs to get all the water it can. There's not a lot falling from the sky. It's a desert. It's not really raining. So maybe they're sucking up anything that they can from deep down underneath the ground. So they're doing that, and they're also anchoring it into the earth. Thank you for your question, Luke. Here's another one. It's Dusty. What have you got, mate?
How does a seed grow into a tree?
Thank you, Dusty, for that question. How does a seed turn into a tree? Well, a seed has everything it needs to survive and start growing inside it. Well, almost everything. It lays in wait for just a few more things, which kick-starts its growth. In the seed, you have the baby plant, the embryo. You have a food supply of starch and nutrients, and also a protective coat. Keeps it safe. Just a seed. It needs to stay fit and in one piece, because if it breaks, well, the seed's not going to grow into a tree, is it? Now, this seed can wait months or years until conditions around it are right and what it needs are close by. Normally, it needs warmth, oxygen, and water. Water is very important. When the seed absorbs water, it swells up and it softens, and that triggers the embryo in the seed to wake up and start using that stored food for energy. It can't grow without energy, so it kind of gets to work. It starts eating in its own strange, seedy way. It's sucking up all the energy. Then a tiny root, a tree root again, a small one though, not 70 meters like the one in the desert. It breaks through the seed coat and it goes downwards to anchor the plant in the soil and again to suck up water. And then the shoot from the top, that grows upwards towards the light. That'll break through the surface. When it does that, it unfurls tiny leaves to suck up water and sunlight, which let them breathe and photosynthesize, which is how it stays alive. And over years and years, it will make new wood and bark and branches and then flowers to make new seeds, which drop to the floor. And the whole cycle keeps going round, Dusty. That's how a seed turns into a tree. Thank you for your question. We got time for one more. Here's a question from Charlotte, who wants to know, how do clouds stay in the sky? Well, scientists have weighed clouds. They do that through some very smart science because they can hardly pull a cloud down and stick it on a scale, can they? Where would you find a scale that big enough? So they use some genius science which makes them do that. And they found that clouds can weigh up to 4 tons, which is the same as about 2 elephants. Picture that. This thing that's just full of water weighs 4 tons, yet somehow it stays up in the sky and stays floating. Surely something that heavy would sink down to Earth. Well, there are a few reasons how they manage to stay floating. They are made of tiny bits of frozen water. Water is H2O. That's its chemical makeup. 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom bound together. And hydrogen is the lightest element of them all. And there are 2 of them, so that helps them keep aloft and floating through the sky. Also, although clouds are cold, because the water is frozen, clouds are also surrounded by warm pockets of air which help lift it up. But the main reason is that things sink to the ground because gravity is pulling it to Earth. The water droplets in the cloud, quite often, they're simply too small to really be affected by gravity. So, Charlotte, that's why 3 reasons why a cloud manages to stay in the sky. Thank you for that, and thank you for your questions. If you have something that you'd love answered on the show, make sure you leave it as a voice note on the free Fun Kids app, and you can do it at funkidslive.com too. And while we're here exploring the universe, should we head back in time and see what's going on way back with the age of the dinosaurs?
Imagine going back in time, not 100 years or 1,000 years, but millions of years. To the age of the dinosaur. Welcome to the Jurassic Period, which existed between 145 and 200 million years ago. With the supercontinent Pangaea continuing to separate, more and more big watery lagoons were forming, and along with the new oceans were teeming with life, from the tiny to the monstrous.
Wow, so many animals. But where are the dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs didn't live in the sea, but all of the first creatures to appear on Earth did. On the seabed, you would see sponges that looked like squishy lumps, tiny corals that were building huge rocky reefs and starfish. These animals had been around for millions of years before dinosaurs, and are just like those you'd find on the beach today.
Hey, look at that huge shellfish with wavy tentacles. Cool.
That's an ammonite. It's a close relative of squid and octopuses, whose ancestors had already been around for 150 million years before the first dinosaurs appeared. They came in all sizes. Some were as big as 2 meters wide. The hard shell protected its squishy body, and its tentacles were used for swimming and catching food.
Quick, get out of the way. Something big's coming.
Make way for a plesiosaur, one of the Jurassic Period's biggest beasts. Plesiosaurs were sea creatures with tubby bodies, 4 flippers, and a short tail. Some had long, slender necks and small heads, while others had huge heads but short, powerful necks. They were both agile and terrifying. Some of the biggest, like Lioplorodon, were at least 10 meters long. That's nearly as long as a bus. They had sharp teeth that could be over 30 centimeters long. They were the top predators in the ocean, feeding on whatever marine reptiles and fish they could grab.
Let's get out of here.
Away from the oceans in the watery lagoons lived even more sea monsters. Fast fish eaters like the ichthyosaurs were dolphin-like creatures with a tail fin and 4 flippers. Temnodontosaurus was a massive ichthyosaur, over 10 meters long, with huge eyes that helped him see in the gloomy water. Since ichthyosaurs didn't have gills, they couldn't breathe underwater and had to come to the surface to breathe, just like whales do today.
Paleontology. Pick.
Fossilized skeletons don't just tell paleontologists what creatures look like. They can tell us a lot more. For example, from fossils of pregnant ichthyosaurs, we know that they gave birth to live young in the sea. No fossils of pregnant plesiosaurs have ever been found, but we know their ancestors laid eggs, so they probably came out on land to make nests, a bit like turtles.
Nice to take a trip back to the age of the dinosaurs. You can hear more of those podcasts and other brilliant series that we have on the Free Fun Kids app and at funkidslive.com too. That's where you send in your questions, so make sure you do that. That way you can star in the podcast. I can hear you, and I love it when we get to do that. Fun Kids are our children's radio station from the UK. You can listen all around the country on the app, on our website. And if you've got a smart speaker, wake it up, ask it to play Fun Kids. And I will be back in a few days with another episode of the podcast. Thanks for listening. I'll see you soon.